Canada's new finance minister, Bill Morneau, was sworn in today. Morneau may be a political newcomer, but he has a deep background in business. The 53-year-old Morneau is, as we mentioned, a former executive chairman of Morneau Chappell, Canada's largest manager of private sector pensions and human resource services. Morneau has worked with government before. He was the pension investment advisor to the Ontario government in 2012 and later became an advisor to the Premier on the proposed Ontario pension plan designed to supplement the CPP. He is the former chair of the C.D. Howe Institute and has a master's degree from the London School of Economics, in addition to his master's in business administration. Justin Trudeau's Liberals made a number of promises about his government's plans, including raising taxes on the wealthiest Canadians while lowering them for the middle class. And Trudeau promised to create jobs through a $60 billion 10-year infrastructure spending program while running deficits up to $10 billion for a minimum of 3 years. Joining me now is the new Minister of Finance, Bill Morneau. Welcome, Mr. Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Diane. It's a real pleasure to be here, obviously, on a pretty big day.
Congratulations. I suppose, you know, we know you have this incredible experience and success in the business world, but this is the first time you're going to be actually a member of Parliament and with a pretty big job. Is it fair to say you've got a bit of a learning curve ahead of you? Well,
I absolutely have a learning curve, as anyone would, but I like to think the decision of the Prime Minister to ask me to take on this role was really about the experience I bring to the role as opposed to the learning curve.
Now tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the economy. Of course, there's been a lot of worry about Canada this year, the price of oil, the recession, of course, and now I'm wondering what you see ahead of you. What do you think needs to happen to sort of restore the Canadian economy to real vitality and growth?
Well, maybe I can step back before I really answer that directly. We had a very exciting day in Ottawa today, bringing in a new government with a new Prime Minister and a cabinet that I think was enormously energizing, such a diverse cabinet that brings expertise from so many walks of life. And having done that, we just had our first cabinet meeting. So we had a cabinet meeting where we talked really to a great extent about the tone and tenor of this government. We talked about some initial priorities. But the answer to your question really more specifically is that I haven't yet had the chance to sit down with departmental officials in the finance department.
I know, but you're a Canadian and you've been watching all these things unfold and you're in the business world. You know all the forces that are at work here on our economy. I'm just curious to hear what you would see as some of the key issues that you're going to need to address.
Well, fair enough. And I'm a Canadian who had to do something special over 78 days, which is talk to lots of other Canadians. So I certainly did get a really good understanding of some of the challenges that people are facing. One of the things that I guess I would start with saying is that, you know, as a country, we are facing a challenge around growth. We've seen over the course of this year so far a real change with a negative growth rate for the first couple of quarters. And we are facing, in future, a challenge around growth due to changing demographics. So our platform was really thinking about how do you deal with growth challenges. And that's really what brought us to the idea that we need to make significant investments in our economy, investments that we think can enhance productivity, but also investments that can create jobs and prepare us better for growth in the future. So I would identify growth as a critical issue. And secondly, I would point out that we need to think about how the rewards of that growth go to people in our society. And that's something we talked a lot about in terms of trying to make sure that we provide a more advantageous situation for those in the middle class in particular.
Well, yeah, I was interested in asking you about that because, of course, you are a member of the 1% yourself. I mean, you're taking a pretty significant pay cut to become the Minister of Finance, maybe like about $800,000 less in income for you this year.
I haven't done the math.
I did a rough calculation. But I also have heard and have read that you're very, very keenly interested in income inequality, and that's part of what attracted you to public service, that you want to address that, and I presume that's going to be happening with some of these tax changes that you're looking at.
Well, I'm concerned that we make sure that the next generation of Canadians feels like they have the capacity to get ahead. So I'm worried that people that don't have the possibility of getting into the middle class see that possibility. I'm worried that people that are in the middle class see the possibility of doing better and better, and that they can see farther ahead that there will be a strong economy for their children and grandchildren. So yes, it worries me, but it's an opportunity for us to make investments that are going to make that more likely to be the case. And certainly income inequality is something that's not good for anyone. We want to make sure that Canadians all have a fair chance at success, and if there's continuing levels of inequality, it does take away hope for those that aren't doing as well.
How quickly do you think you're going to be able to enact some of these ideas? I'm thinking about the income splitting and the new family tax cuts and so forth. How quickly were we going to be able to see that?
Well, I wouldn't want to prescribe a timetable. As I said, I haven't sat down with Finance Department officials yet, so we really do need to sit down. We're committed to our platform, and that was why we put it out there. It wasn't a platform that was based on political expediency. It's a platform based on what we think is the right thing to do for Canada and for Canadians. So we're going to sit down and think about how we roll out those platform policy measures in an appropriate way, responsibly. But we're going to get at it right away. I'm not meeting with my deputy minister right now because I'm on your show, but I'll be meeting with him first thing tomorrow morning, and that's the first order of business.
Well, we won't hold you up any longer from that. Thank you so much for being with us.
Okay. Thank you. It's really great to be here.